This is it, DALL-E 2, which is a combination of Wall-E, the robot from Pixar, and of course Salvador Dali. OpenAI chose to combine those two words together last year, and now they've come up with DALL-E number 2, and it's amazing. 3.5 billion parameters. It generated this Shiba Inu. The prompt was Shiba Inu dog wearing a beret and black turtleneck. One of the ex-design directors of OpenAI, Ben Barry, went and played around with DALL-E 2 for about 2 days straight this month in April 2022 and generated 1,000 different robots in different styles. And rather than force you to read that book, which is available for free on archive.org, there's the link in the description, I'm going to run through my favorite parts of this book, and hopefully we can smash through 1,000 of these pretty quickly. He's in some cases done 6 to a page, so let's have a play with it. Here we go. Now these are all robots, and on page 1 we start with watercolors. I'm going to be zooming into these because have a look at the level of detail in these watercolors. The shading, the eyes in particular, the shadows. DALL-E 2, like all models, is generating completely new, original, creative content. So these are not copies, they don't exist anywhere else. They've been created, in this case, by typing the words, a watercolor of a silver robot head with colorful flowers growing out of the top on a colorful, smooth gradient background. That's it, it's the whole prompt, one sentence, and we get these amazing outputs. Page 9 here, and we're looking at a brightly colored surrealism painting. And we move from surrealism into modernism. Get some scratchboard paintings. Obviously, Ben is a specialist artist and designer, so he's got an obsession with all of these different prompts that we could use, all of these different styles of art, and all pretty much similar in their response in that they're all robots. There's 1,000 of these robots. Have a look at the level of detail in here as well, all the way through to like the beautiful little flares. DALL-E 2 produces images that are 1024 by 1024 pixels. So these are double, triple, quadruple what used to be possible. I think a lot of the older style generative adversarial networks, GANs, would produce 256 by 256, but these are all 1024 by 1024. I'll also note here that OpenAI is kind of generating a little watermark down the bottom. I don't know if there's any encoding in here, but they have definitely put something on top of these images to prove, in a way, that these are generated by an AI and not human-made. Of course, there was a human in the original training data. These are trained on 3.5 billion parameters. The data set was huge. It's matches of images and text. Grab our two-page spread here as we progress. On page 21, we're looking at Mexican styles, cyberpunk styles, Michelangelo styles on page 22 coming up here. Getting a lot of cyberpunk and fantasy here. Isn't this outrageous? Living in April 2022 and being able to see this level of detail in images, paintings, drawings generated 100% by AI at this resolution and it only taking minutes or perhaps even seconds, this is not publicly released yet, to produce each of these images. And again, Ben Barry went and produced 1,000 of these images across a few hours of work, all focusing on robots in different styles and poses. We're on page 28 and 29 here. These are science fiction and fantasy, and we move to Greek style. We've got some Salvador Dali prompts here. And we've got Cubism, Baroque, more Cubism, Dutch Golden Age, very specific. It's a robot with a robot baby here. Beautiful. Page 47 is just a dramatically lit, brightly coloured, detailed painting of a robot with flowers growing out of its head, holding a baby robot with a rainbow background, digital art. Beautiful. All right, we're coming up on a quarter of the way through this book because there are 1,000 of them. Again, the level of detail really surprises me here. That is something else. For a computer to generate that, this is not an artist having to sit down with their oils and spend days. This is generated in an instant. You can download this book for free at archive.org. I'm going to actually only put the torrent link down the bottom there because we don't want to overload the not-for-profit archive.org. Look at the level of detail in that one. It is a robot painting the ocean. The prompt used there is a dramatically lit, brightly coloured, detailed painting of a robot artist painting a picture of the ocean. Beautiful. Bit of a Wizard of Oz inspiration here. On page 64, we're moving into abstract geometric. That one is definitely a little bit more difficult to see what's going on here. Isn't that beautiful? Robots with musical instruments. Page 68, we've got sitting in a field of flowers by a lake with clouds in the background. Ben's been very specific here, and the output be clear. Coming back into Cubism here on page 78. Rene Magritte in this beautiful prompt here and the beautiful result. Wow. Got Raphael as the prompt here. Painting by Raphael of a robot head with flowers growing out the top. And then on page 94 we have a painting by MC Escher in black and white first, and then we go into MC Escher color on page 96 and 97 and 98. In fact, we've got a lot of MC Escher here. Beautiful. 104, we're moving on to a painting by Norman Rockwell. Or at least that's the prompt. Rockwell didn't have to sit down for days or weeks to create this. This was again created by DALL-E 2 in seconds, maybe split seconds. Moving on to Edward Hopper there on page 107 down the bottom. Back to Rockwell here. Mary Cassatt on these pages. Botticelli here on page 115. Caravaggio on page 116, right the way through to 120. Look at that detail. How does an AI, a generative adversarial network, GAN, come up with that level of detail in the reflection of the eye and the colouring, of course? Grant Wood, Thomas Cole, on the right there we've got John Singer Sargent. We've got woodblocks, Takeshi Oga. Painting by Takeshi Oga of a robot head with flowers growing out of the top. Sid Mead. A lot of Sid Mead here for our futuristic robots. This one reminds me of Alien, the movie. Zoom on that one. Beautiful. Still Sid Mead. Then we're moving into an illustration by John Alcorn of a robot with flowers growing out of the top of its head. We've also got Buckminster Fuller as the prompt for 3, 4, and 5. Which I believe is this one, and this one. Bucky Fuller there as a robot painter. These are all just detailed paintings of a rainbow-coloured robot with flowers growing out of the top of its head. The colours there are phenomenal. Again, these are all 1024 by 1024 square. We're hoping that this entire platform will be made available to the public very soon. OpenAI at the moment only allowing trusted partners to access this platform. Look at the level of detail in the eyes and the cheeks here for this one. Page 159, we're looking at the same prompt, which is just a detailed painting of a multicolored robot. Vermeer here on page 164, painting by Johannes Vermeer of a robot with flowers growing out of the top of its head. Have a look at the eyes here. This was my favorite just from my initial glance at these paintings. Look at the reflection in the eyeball there, but also just look at that eyeball and how realistic it is. Neither of those eyeballs have ever appeared before, and this painting, of course, has never appeared before. Completely created new from scratch by DALL-E. We're on page 164 here. More Caravaggio on 165. Let's move into some of the Impressionist paintings, Impressionist oils. We've got a bit of 168 Sid Mead returning. Even the small ones here are still showing at full res when they're zoomed in. So 1024 by 1024, holding a solar system in its hands with clouds and a rainbow in the background. Page 173. More Sid Mead. Richard Estes. You're welcome to beat up on any of my pronunciations in this video, as I am not an artist. I do not attend art galleries. Look at the choice of color in that one. Look at the choice of symbols in that one. That is page 181, image 3, a painting by Richard Estes of floating molecules and a robot holding an icosahedron with stars, clouds, and rainbows in the background. There's one just below it that is also amazing. Moving on to Ralph McQuarrie here. Ralph McQuarrie again as the prompt. This is not painted by anything other than a GAN called DALL-E 2, and it's producing pretty high resolution paintings or images. More Ralph McQuarrie. And we're going to move into Salvador Dali here on page 189. So images 1, 2, and 3 using Dali as the prompt, which is kind of appropriate, generating images based on the prompt Salvador Dali in the platform OpenAI DALL-E 2 about robots, and you could say this is generated by perhaps the equivalent of a robot. The next row underneath, Yayoi Kusama, and then the row underneath that, James Turrell. Going to move on to Victor Vassarelli. I was going to put this one on the monitor behind me because the colors are amazing, but even at 1024 by 1024, we're not looking at super high resolution. We're just looking at resolution that's 4 or 5 times better than what the previous GANs were able to do. More Vassarelli. I quite like this one here on the left. Bringing gold into the colouring. Page 200, nearly done. More Vassarelli. And Ben Barry is getting quite specific with his prompts here. So the top of page 201, the prompt is very long. It says, a detailed blue, red, purple, gold, and pink coloured painting by Victor Vassarelli of a human robot holding a geometric flower with floating platonic solids, floating molecules, clouds, and stars in the background. Super specific, and the output, super beautiful. Generated by a computer. There are now thousands of examples of generations from DALL-E 2 available online. I just found this book to be incredibly interesting because we're only using one subject, and that's robots. We're with Sid Mead now. Now Surrealist. Let's check out the detail on this one in the center here. And just below him, we've got what looks like one of my Smarties birthday cakes from when I was a kid. Smarties may or may not be Australian, but very similar to M&M's. On page 206 here, we're still with Sid Mead, Floating Molecules. 208, Surrealist by Sid Mead. And in fact, he wraps up the entire book. Look at the colouring on that one as well. Page 213, this is the last one here. A detailed rainbow-coloured surrealist painting by Sid Mead of a robot sleeping in a field of flowers, dreaming of icosahedrons. Beautiful. That's it. Ben explains the layout of the book and he gives the prompts for every image. Which I just read out. Published very, very recently, within the last week or so, April 2022.